This talk was recorded during Goldsmiths Fair 2020. Goldsmiths Fair is a unique selling event showcasing the work of a selection of some of the most talented, established and emerging fine jewellers and contemporary silversmiths creating and making in the UK today. Next year's fair will run from the 28th of September to the 10th of October 2021. Until then, you can browse the makers from this year's fair and read stories about them and their work at goldsmithfair.co.uk.
Now, on with the tour. I'm very pleased to introduce our tour guides. Isabelle Fish is a crafts and traveller expert and founder of Rue Pigalle. In 2016, she launched the travel arm of her business and has since curated and led trips for intimate groups of arts, crafts and culture lovers who wish to expand their worldview, network and knowledge in a purposeful yet fun way. As we entered lockdown, all the way around the world, Isabelle swiftly realised that she would need to start taking the makers to her audience and upsprung a fantastic programme of talks on Zoom, bringing numerous artists to the homes of many. And we partnered with her in the spring already. So this is our second partnership, which we're very pleased to be doing. So today, Isabelle, who's miraculously in the UK, normally based in Canada, is following a compulsory quarantine, of course, is in the studio of Silversmith Miriam Hanid. Miriam graduated from the University of the Creative Arts in 2007, followed by a year at Bishopsland, where she honed her extraordinary talent for chasing, forming and engraving. She's a member of the Hand Engravers Association, and her work is held in several prestigious collections, including the V&A and our very own company collection. Miriam, Isabelle, welcome. Over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Harriet, and welcome everybody. It's absolutely wonderful to have you here. I should tell you that we do not see you, so it's like talking to a screen with no feedback, but I know that you're there, and we both thank you very much. I'm delighted really to this partnership with the Goldsmith Fair, because we had a fantastic series of lectures in June that raised funds for the makers and the artists of Goldsmith, and I was very proud that we were able to contribute to the effort. So it's a second partnership, as Harriet said, and we're going to be in for a treat today. And here with Miriam, I'm in Suffolk. We're in Suffolk almost at the edge of the country on the east coast. If we go down the alley here, down the path, we'll hit the sea, and if we start swimming, we might hit Holland. So we're really at the edge of the country here. But I'm going to take you through the studio. You're going to hear all about Miriam's story. You're going to discover her art, her technique, which is absolutely unique. You're going to see the magnificent pieces that she creates. And I hope that for an hour, you're just going to be transported in a little corner of Suffolk. So Miriam, thank you so much for having us.
You're welcome.
Really welcoming strangers in your studio for an artist is just like opening your soul. I mean, it's your home, isn't it?
It's my habitat, yes.
It's your habitat. This is where you spend most of your time?
Yeah, I love being in here. I just close the door and it's like I'm in my own little world.
Right, yeah, I can see that. So the studio is in a garden shed, really. A beautiful garden shed, but it's at the end of the garden of Miriam's mum. And you come in and you're going to see it's one room so extraordinarily well organized. And the studio of an artist really tells you about the personality. And I'm guessing that you're a very organized, precise person.
I don't know, maybe it just seems like that.
It seems like that. Okay, well, we're going to discover all the secrets. So when you start a piece, how does it start? You start with what?
I mean, usually I start with some rough sketches. So these might not be the prettiest things, but it's how I just get my ideas down on paper and kind of get the visual forms down, really. So this is one of my sketches done in charcoal for the Infinitude piece. So it's just literally exploring waves. I think actually these waves are kind of upside down, so I'm not too bothered about it being perfect at this stage. And then I kind of transfer this onto the metal.
Right. So you mentioned waves. I think that's important that we dig a little bit into that.
Yeah.
because water is very important to you.
Yes, yeah, I love looking at water, especially with the coast so nearby, and just kind of taking pictures of the waves and drawing the movement in them.
Right. And it links also to your meditative practice?
Yes, yeah. So somehow there's a similarity between the endless moving kind of quality of the sea and the calmness of water, and that kind of meditative depth that I experience in meditation.
Right. You have a lot of pieces that found their the beginning, their source in your meditative practice.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Well, I think over time it just kind of intuitively transforms into the pieces, but pieces that kind of I get an idea of when I'm in meditation often kind of come into being.
Right, amazing. So you have a couple of more drawings here. Maybe we can have a look at that.
And this one is my working design for the radiant centerpiece, which you can see.
Bring it maybe
behind.
a little bit closer so you can see.
So it was I actually had to colour code it because it was so technically challenging to work out the design and all the interlocking parts. So this is why it's kind of ended up as a colourful sketch.
So that's the colour coding.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Just to work out the design.
And that's the piece that we can see in the background here. We're very privileged. We have this beautiful photo here, so you can see the finished product.
And this is just another print of the Radiance design, which I kind of did to put on the wall, really.
So there's a lot of math involved in doing a piece like that.
Exactly.
Tell us a little bit about that. Because
often, because my work's quite fluid, it can look very fluid and natural, but actually I start with mathematical kind of diagrams and templates to get all these curves, particularly in the Radiant centerpiece, to get them even. And because I don't like to do anything just kind of bodging it, I do like to do it properly. So for this piece I actually started off with angles and trigonometry, and it did take quite a while.
Right. No, I mean it's a very complex piece. And then for the commissions you create a different kind of drawings.
Yeah. So I like to present sheets such as this is for the Cascade Loving Cup, which I'm actually nearly finished at the moment, and it will be delivered soon. So look out on my Instagram for that one.
We can see all the writing here, the drawing. So the client receives that.
Yes, this is like my original kind of test, my design sheet. And it just kind of conveys to the client what I'm hoping to achieve in silver.
Right, and you can see that it's dated. So it's a really nice memento. Do you send the drawing with a piece to the client?
I usually keep the drawings, but if they ask for copies, then I'll happily provide them.
No, I would want the original. I think it would be a nice thing to have.
Yeah.
So the piece is formed in your mind, in your eyes, in your heart. It's transferred on the paper, and then what happens?
So then it's time to get working in metal.
Okay.
So we can go over to the workbench.
Let's go to the workbench. So I'm going to grab you guys and I'm going to take you to the workbench. Here we are. So this is the workbench.
I don't have many flat sheets of metal in the workshop at the moment, but these kind of, the metal starts off as a flat sheet, and here's some just very small examples that I'm going to use for test pieces. So to start working the metal, I would kind of hammer it into a doming block, which is kind of used for starting off a bowl. It's called sinking. And this is a doming block which my father made. So he often makes some of my tools. And I can do a bit of that now.
Sure. Why don't we do that? So it's going to be a little bit noisy, but you know, it's part of the experience here.
So this is the shallowest one, and I just literally start hammering. So you can see it's very slightly starting to transform into a very shallow bowl, and obviously on a bigger piece it would be transforming a lot quicker. But then after sinking, you would then come to raising, which is done with steel stakes and hammers. So shall I show you a bit?
Yeah, let's have a look at that.
So this is my kind of stake section. I would kind of use, to start off a big piece like my infinitude vessel, I would start off with a mushroom stake and this on this horse. So this is a nice big stake here, goes in this horse.
So it's very surprising that you have such heavy equipment. I mean, one doesn't think that silversmithing of, beautiful pieces like that are so delicate, we'll come back to it, requires heavy tooling like this. Maybe we can have a look at the shelves with all the tools there.
They're not very kind of neatly organized, but I'm limited with space here, so
yeah, but I mean, these tools are huge hammers.
Yeah.
And you said that your dad,
often he's welded up things for me, like this horse to hold different horse heads, these stake heads. We do grinding and shaping of the steel stakes here as well. And I mean, it's just kind of working with the size stakes for the job, really.
Yeah, I mean, this is heavy gear.
It is quite.
I'll
get the kind of hammer that I would use for the raising out as well.
Right, let's do that.
My hammer's over here.
Oh yes, let's have a look at the hammers.
This is a raising hammer, which I actually made in a blacksmith's workshop down the road, actually.
Right.
And it's a kind of Damascus one. So to form up the vessel, I would raise on a stake like the mushroom stake, very repetitively round and round, and it brings up the metal to a vertical form.
Right. So can we talk about the tools for a second?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, tools are uber important.
Yes,
exactly.
And
in your case, they all handmade. They made. I mean, you don't buy tools.
I might buy, the raw materials like the wood, or
right.
But then it's kind of shaped to fit my work, really. So they're all mostly bespoke tools, such as these tools here. Actually, they're made by my dad for forming the tops of cups and making them perfectly round. So I like things to be as perfect as possible, which
right.
is kind of something to aim for, but it can never be quite you're perfect because it's a handmade object.
Right.
But these tools help to get to that aim. And this is a kind of anti-clastic forming tool made for this big piece, not that big, but a piece I'm working on the hearth. So I was using that the other day. These are some nylon tools which I use to form and shape the metal, and also nylon hammers. I make my own to shape into the curves of my work. So
the nylon clearly makes a different mark from the metal hammer?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't texture the metal like a steel hammer would. So basically, I can show you this piece here that I'm about to heat in a second.
Sure.
This is a mini deluge piece. So it's all formed using nylon hammers and also done on pitch, which is, you can see a pitch tray here.
Yeah, we'll come back to the pitch because
yes.
I think it's a fascinating thing.
So after chasing, I would then kind of coax the metal into these curves to shape it into relief.
Right. Okay, so let's come back to the bench here.
So this bowl I'm working on here is filled with pitch.
Yes,
and
let's have a look.
It's a substance which is almost like tar. It's made from pine resin and beeswax and what else? Plaster of Paris. And I make up my own recipe. So it's quite a soft pitch, and it's basically a support inside the metal for chasing onto.
Right.
So this is a bowl based on a kind of lotus flower design again here. And just going to bring my trusty kneeling chair here, which I work on. And now I would start to chase the metal. So chasing, if you don't know, it's a technique where you use these steel punches to transform the surface of the metal using different shaped punches and to get the design onto the surface.
So do you trace the design on the surface first?
Well, usually, I mean, this one I just drew it on, kind of naturally by sketching it. But if it's something more involved, then I would probably copy it from a design.
Right.
But
I'm
just
trying to
drawing
get
freehand.
I'm trying to get the lighting right.
It is quite difficult sometimes with
Here we
silver.
go. You can see, yeah, I know.
So you can see my pencil lines here.
Right. Okay, so why don't you show us
I'll just do a bit of
how to do the
chasing. So you can see here I've got this line, which I've just left, and to kind of get the angle right for chasing. So I'll just kind of slip my tool into the line and then start hammering. And when you start hammering, the tool kind of just moves on its own. It literally just chugs along. And at the moment, I'm just outlining shapes. Can you see that line there?
Yeah.
So I won't do too much because I want to show you some different tools. So this tool here is a planishing tool, and it's used to create a facet on the surface of the metal. So I often kind of put this tool into the line that I've just done and then start to shape the surface. Tricky to get the light.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see, but it's kind of a facet on the line.
I don't know if it's going. Oh, here we go. Here we go.
So just there.
Yeah. Okay, fantastic.
So that you can kind of create lots of different effects with chasing. And these are some of my different shape tools which I've made myself to shape the ends. And I love exploring textures. So these are all my kind of textured tools here, and I've labelled them as well.
So how do you make tools like that? You just go to a blacksmith?
Well, no, these are all, I make them myself, so I hand forge them. So this is bright steel, and you can see on this one, it's a texturing tool. I've just forged down the end to make an oval at the end.
Right.
And then it's a textured tool for putting a kind of mottled texture onto the metal. But some of them are highly polished as well.
Right. So that love of making your own tools and doing all that, it's a bit of a family tradition, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, my father is an engineer, so he is used to kind of making tools and, you know, fabricating metal and wood. But my great grandfather, who was a silversmith, gunsmith, and just generally a metalsmith in Kenya, he made two pieces for the Queen in 1952, which was a ivory gong and striker,
yeah,
and a ostrich egg teapot.
We're actually going to show photos of both these pieces. Maybe Hugh, if you could share these photos, that would be great.
So he had a team of craftspeople.
So we're looking now at the ivory gong. Can you describe it first a little bit? So it was made for the Queen, wasn't it?
Yes, when she visited Kenya in 1952. And it was made from base metal, and it was more about the workmanship and obviously the ivory tusks which it's mounted on. And there's a striker as well, and it's in Buckingham Palace, and it's apparently used every day.
All right.
Because my father contacted them and asked them if he could see it or if they kind of could tell him more information, and they said it's in daily use. So that's lovely to know.
So what, the Queen just hits the gong to wake up in the morning? Or
I don't know if she might hit it, but someone might hit it to call them for dinner. Maybe.
Oh, that's fantastic. And then the second piece is the teapot. Tell us a little bit about that.
So it's an ostrich egg which has been mounted in silver, and it was a gift to give to her for the coronation in 1952 when she visited Kenya. So those two pieces are really lovely records to have of the craftsmanship in my family.
Yeah.
And I didn't even find out that my great-grandfather was a silversmith until I finished my degree. So that was quite a surprise.
So he actually left Pakistan to go to Kenya.
Yes, in 1886. And they set up their business and they made millions of brass buttons for the Navy and trophies for different countries around West Africa. So it's a really lovely way to learn about my family history.
Have you been to Kenya to see where he was?
I have. I went there when I was 2, and also in 2006, at the start of my degree, I went to meet the family and explore around a bit.
Oh, fantastic. Now, you also carried on the tradition because you made a piece for the Queen.
Yes, I did. It was in 2012 for the Diamond Jubilee. And it was a small engraved band, which was kind of fitted onto a walking stick, which was presented by the Drapers Company and presented to her.
Good. So thank you, Hugh. We're going to carry on at the bench here. That was a great story.
So shall I show you some engraving?
Yes, let's do some engraving.
Okay. So if you know about hand engraving, it's basically using this very small pointed tool.
I'm going to
very sharp.
Closer.
And
I hope that we can see.
You see that point?
Yeah.
It's like an angled point.
Right.
And this is just a test piece which I kind of do to show students sometimes. So you can see it's
try to
made out of lots of lines.
Work. Oh, here we go. That's it. We have a good angle there. Okay.
So I just have to turn it.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's fine.
So here, I would kind of use both hands to brace the tool and then just carve each line. And then you flick out the metal at the end. So it's quite an intricate kind of technique, but it makes this really lovely shimmery effect on the metal, if you can see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And often I sign my pieces with my signature underneath or kind of, on the back to put my stamp on it, really.
Yeah, really, absolutely. Well, you should.
And these are some of my other test pieces of engraved designs. This is actually a different type of engraving.
If you move it a bit, we can see the angle more easily.
Like this.
Yeah, that's better. Great.
So that's actually using hammer and chisel engraving, which is a larger chisel. I can show you one. And it's actually kind of pushed along with a small hammer to get this depth.
Right.
So it's a bolder kind of engraving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can see that it's deeper and it's like an explosion almost.
So they are the techniques of chasing and engraving. And next, I think we can go to the hearth and do some heating.
Okay, let's do that. Absolutely.
So this is my hearth area.
So before we do that, the repetitive motion again, we come back to the meditation there.
Yeah. I mean, you do have to be quite patient with silversmithing, I think. It's something which you can't really rush because the metal just won't kind of play ball if you rush.
Right. So what happens when you make mistakes? Do you ever make mistakes?
I think everyone makes mistakes. I have actually got a piece here which didn't quite go to plan, if you'd like to see that.
Sure.
I think it's important to show the failures as well. And this is a bowl which I did some nice chasing on, and actually I kind of went a bit too far with it, and I got some holes in it and tried to solder them up, and then just decided I don't think it's working anymore, really. So what I've done now is I've kind of drawn different shapes onto it, and I might actually cut it up and make it into smaller pieces.
Right.
But I think sometimes it's nice to have records of what you've done in the past, and just to think, where did I go wrong? How can I improve? And, constantly improve.
Right.
Really.
Yeah. It's a bit of a journal almost.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isabelle, could I interject with a quick question?
Yes.
You were just showing us how you often sign pieces with your actual name, and I'm just wondering sort of where what the decision is around that, because of course a lot of silversmiths will just use their hallmark
Yes.
and as a sort of thing. So is it purely an aesthetic choice that you would then want to sort of, you know, or just easier for people to recognize?
Well, I only actually started doing it because the clients who were commissioning me asked me, can you just put your signature on it? Because I think I did it once on one piece, and then someone must have saw it and they said, would you mind just putting your signature on the bottom? So it's something I thought, well, maybe I should, you know, practice a bit more and do it on most of my signature pieces. So it's kind of become one of my little rituals at the end of making a piece now.
Oh, it's really nice. I mean, do you ever use the hallmark? You know, some people will stick it, you know, very clearly on, you know, the rim of a beaker or something. You know, do you use your hallmark in that way, or do you tend to sort of hide it elsewhere?
I think it depends on the piece, really, because if we can look at one of the pieces here.
Sure, of course.
Basically, if I think the piece would be disrupted by it, then I try to just put it discreetly somewhere. So on this Fierce Grace bowl, I've kind of just hidden it. I've hidden it so well that I can't actually see it.
Yeah.
But it's somewhere there. Whereas on a piece like this beaker, it's actually made a feature of on the base.
Yeah, really nice.
So I often kind of integrate them within the design, such as on this beaker, you can see, with my signature in there as well.
Yeah.
So I like to tell the assay office where to put the marks, you know, in a curve or within the chasing.
That's really lovely.
Both things are kind of like my signature, really.
Brilliant. Thank you.
You're welcome. So we shall proceed to the hearth.
Let's go back to the hearth.
And I'll put my specs on.
Yeah, we have to be safe. And I'm staying away.
So this is a piece which I've been working on for some time, and it's ready for annealing now. Annealing is heating and cooling the metal to make it workable again. So I'll just light the torch. So because this is fine silver, I can tell it's annealed because it goes like a pearly white finish. And we're actually going to quench it, which is something I don't always do, but this time we're going to quench it so we can hear the sound of the water hitting the hot metal. And it's something you might do when you're raising. So it just helps you to work a bit quicker, and you can kind of, you know, get into the flow of making a lot quicker rather than waiting for it to cool down. So we'll just get this now. Oops. And sometimes I use a brick to
So I should share that we can, all the senses here are being really teased, because there's the smell of the hot metal, and then the steam, and the scent of the smell of it's a scent actually, because it's not an unpleasant smell of the metals cooling down, and it's incredible. Thank you.
Yeah, very kind of engaging. So now this would go into the acid bath, which is just around here. and it will get the marks off and just any kind of oxidation on the metal.
Right.
So I would put it in here. And that will stay for about 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay.
So we shall now, yes, I can tell you about what I would do after the chasing and engraving. And after the making, we would go to the finishing. So I've got this tumbler which I'm working on. We'll go to the jewellery bench. So this is a tumbler. It's actually one of a pair. The other one I just showed you with the hallmark underneath. A client ordered 2 of them.
So can you just switch off the light because it actually flickers? Yes, here we go.
Yes,
thank you.
That better. So as you can see, I've done the chasing and engraving, the same as the other one.
Yeah.
And it's ready to have the top filed to make it a nice smooth edge. So one of my favourite tools, one of my favourite files is a crossing file. So a crossing file has 2 curves to it. One edge is shallower and one side is kind of a deeper curve. So to file the inside of this rim, I would use the shallower edge, and I just rest it on my bench peg and just gently file this edge. So I've already filed the top edge. Now I'm just taking off that kind of sharp edge there, so that when you drink from it, it's nice and smooth. And you have to be careful not to hit the end, jab the end of the file into the cup, obviously, so it will scratch it.
So how long would it take for you to complete a detail like that?
I mean, obviously it depends how many hours a day I'm working on it, but for this kind of simple design, I think I chased it in about a week, 5 days.
Right.
But the forming and the raising is a separate process, so that would probably take between, a few days to actually make it from a flat sheet. And
so it's a long process. It's a lot of hours is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I mean, it can be, obviously, when I've got gilding as well to do to it.
Right.
So for the outside of this rim, I just use a smooth flat file and just go round, taking off that sharp edge. And then I would go on to maybe wet and dry papers, maybe a felt mop on the polishing machine. And it's sometimes a bit, you have to be very careful. Obviously I've done all this chasing. I don't want to accidentally slip with the file and put a big mark on it. So kind of have to be quite focused.
Yeah, that would not be a good move.
So these are some of my polishing sticks here. I kind of label them, what grade they are, rougher to finer. And I like to keep things organised.
I told you she was organised.
I hate things being in a muddle.
I mean, there's no way this is the workshop of a cluttered mind or a messy person. I mean, look at this. Everything has its place.
Well, there's a lot of stuff here, but
everything is labelled, everything is organised.
So now I would just kind of use this, we call them buff sticks, just to smooth off the file marks a bit. I like to have like a half round edge on my tumblers so that they're nice and smooth. So after that I would go to the polishing machine. But now I will talk about the gilding that I'm going to do on this piece.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Here I have some gold samples, and I send my work to
can you put them? Yeah, here we go.
Yeah.
So
I send my work to be gold plated.
Yeah, that's it, like that.
Electroplated. It's quite hard sometimes in the light.
Yeah.
But all the different carats and all the different colours here.
Right.
This is the black gold, red gold, green gold, which is about 23 carats. And that's kind of what I use on my work. And then we have yellow gold and hard gold, which is 24. And here, this is a kind of new gold here. It's an almond gold colour. It's a bit difficult to see.
It's looking a bit white, but okay.
Well, it's kind of like an almond colour. They call it almond gold, and it's becoming quite trendy in the interiors world. So I used that on a piece recently. So on this tumbler, I'm actually going to partially gild some of this chasing here. So I can show you the finished one over here, if you
because
like.
you've got one that's done already.
Exactly. Here's one I made earlier. And you can see here, there's kind of painterly areas of gold, which I would do with a lacquer. It's called lacquermite. And you just paint it on the silver in the areas where you don't want the gold to be.
It's a bit like reserve dye.
Yeah, kind of like a resist.
Yeah, resist, I mean.
Yeah, exactly. And then I'm kind of using it as a paintbrush in a way, the gold.
And then you have gold inside.
Yes, so this is the lemon coloured gold, the 23 carat, which I talked about. So they will be a pair. And this is part of my collection here for the fair.
Right, it's beautiful.
I can take you through some of the pieces if you like.
Yes, let's do that.
So the infinitude piece, the biggest piece, obviously started out as a flat sheet, and it was raised up by hand into a vertical form, and then I did fill it with pitch, which is very heavy, and then I could work on the outside using the tools I've shown you.
What weight is this piece?
It's about 2.5 kilograms.
Right.
Once it's got ice and some champagne bottles in it,
very
it'll
nice.
be quite heavy.
Yeah.
It won't go anywhere. And then that's the base as well.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
So I've used the whole.
And it's for sale, huh?
Yes, it's available on the fair website. And the inside.
It's beautiful. What's the diameter?
This is about 30 centimetres.
Okay.
About a foot.
Okay.
And then
Juliet, Harriet, let me know if there are any questions.
Well, I've just turned on my mic. I was just wondering, you're handling the pieces without gloves, and you're sort of very comfortable doing all of that. I know that a lot of people can feel very nervous about, how they should be handling silver. Is it the way that you've worked your pieces that means that you can handle them and doesn't leave fingerprints and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, the textures I use, they're quite sort of satin effect, and obviously the hammering as well helps the piece not to get fingerprints on it. But if I was selling this to a client, I would actually clean it as well. Yeah. Something like the bird vase is a bit more highly polished, so that can be cleaned with a silver cloth.
Let's have a look at that.
So,
wow.
But I mean, the trick also, like in jewelry, I know more about jewelry than items like that, is to use it. These items, you should absolutely use them, and if you use them, they actually don't tarnish.
I think that's right. We so often get clients sort of coming in and they're just very nervous about how they should be approaching silver pieces. So it's really nice to see you handling them and just making it feel very normal.
Yes, that's right.
And the gilding also helps, obviously, with tarnishing, because wherever pieces are gilt, they won't get tarnished or stained by anything you put in them. So,
do you want to share a bit about these pieces, because those are very new, aren't they?
What's the hosta leaves?
What's the story?
The hosta leaves.
Yeah.
These are basically, I just love hosta leaves. They're just so simple and flowing, and I just love these little bowls. They're just so simple and perfect for kind of chocolates or something. And just love kind of experimenting with textures and things. So these are.
Did you create a model of that before you did it to make it so perfectly symmetrical? And
not really, no.
Just like that.
It's not that perfect. Okay. It's quite freehand, really.
Okay.
But I mean, these veins, they look like they're symmetrical, but they're actually slightly organic.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I would do drawings and templates and transfer it onto the metal.
I've got another couple of questions, if you don't mind. Do you work in fine silver and sterling silver?
Yeah, I mean, I work in all three. So this bowl here is fine silver. just because I wanted to get a lot of relief into the metal and push it quite far. So I mean, you could do this in sterling, but it would just take longer and more effort.
What's the difference?
So fine silver is the purest silver, and that's 999 parts out of 1,000 silver. So it's quite soft actually. But when you've work hardened it, when you've hammered it quite a lot, it's it's robust enough. So I also use Britannia silver, and these hosta leaves are in Britannia. So they're just a little bit harder. They're 958 out of 1,000. And then sterling, which I think this little bowl is sterling actually, little kind of leaf bowl. Sterling is obviously the most durable silver at 925 parts out of 1,000. And I do use that for things like my loving cup, which I've just finished, because it will be in a lot of use. So things that will be used daily are best in sterling, really.
Then you have some. Oh, sorry, Harriet.
I do have one more. I'm just. It says, "May I ask how thick is the silver of the cup?" I think is what they're asking. So the cup that you were showing us. Yeah. So how thick is the rim? I think is what they're asking.
So this one started off. This is 1.2. But as you raise it and as you form it, it actually gets thicker at the top, slightly thicker. And in raising, when you hand raise a piece from a flat sheet up to a cup, you basically hammer the edge as well to keep it nice and thick, because it can kind of, if you're hammering right on the edge, it can thin a little bit. So you kind of caulk it on the edge to keep that thickness there. And that's why I kind of do this half round edge that's nice and comfortable.
Thank you.
So 1.2, I think for me is my favourite thickness. It's got a good weight to it.
Good. And then you have some pieces there on that table there.
Yes. So
tell us about it.
I just got a few pieces out of my silver treasure cupboard, just to show you. So my work is often commissioned, so clients can contact me with their the themes they really love, or there's some inspiration on my website that can kind of generate ideas. And I often have a kind of stock of vessel shapes, which people can then, ask me to chase a piece in their own, with their own inspiration. So on this one, I've just drawn some waves, which I might actually do if I get time. And these are some tumblers, and these are some boxes which I plan to engrave. And they've got kind of wavy edge here. At the moment they're quite shiny because they've been polished, but they are
lovely little lovely little boxes here. That wave detail is lovely. Can you share with us a little bit how you are living the current situation from a personal and artistic point of view? I mean, you clearly have a very rich inner life, the meditation and all that. How have you been, absorbing and processing what's going on right now?
I think also, I definitely think it's good to be aware of what's going on around me, but I try and keep as focused as possible, and set my own goals and stay very active and busy with it all. So obviously being very aware of how other people are living and their struggles as well. I do like to engage as much as I can, but still carrying on what's important to me as well. So I think just the main thing for me is to stay balanced, and to stay calm as much as possible. And actually that's the most important thing for me, is to find my own bliss and my own calm within myself, because that will kind of radiate out to others. And it kind of filters out to everyone in the community. So I think that's, for me, if I'm doing what I love and also helping the people around me, it does ripple out.
And is it going to be transferred into, you think at some point it's going to come out into your work?
Possibly. I mean, I think subliminally the Fierce Grace bowl, just the kind of using black gold seemed to fit with what was going on this year. And I don't know if I did it intentionally, but it just seemed to come out that way.
That's the one that you were showing just now.
Yes, and the idea that we are shaped by the darker aspects within ourselves, which obviously is so much in the media at the moment and in the world. Those experiences within us, they kind of shape our individuality and help us connect to our own humility. So that was really the idea behind the lotus, is that we can be in the world but not affected so much by it. If we can keep that condition in ourselves where we're balanced and grounded, then I think, you know, it doesn't affect us so much.
Mm-hmm.
I have a couple of questions here, if that's okay. So, do your clients often ask for customized sets or single pieces?
It varies really. I mean, these cups I've actually made in a different design. I've actually made 6 of them for the same client who commissioned them for her grandchildren, and they were all engraved with their initials, so that was a really lovely commission. But mainly, I mean, collectors, they kind of commission one-off pieces. It's only really if it's for a specific purpose that they would commission a set. But recently I did a set of caddy spoons based on the elements for a client who commissions a lot of sets of things. So it just depends what their collection is like, really.
Yeah. And then I have another one here. Could you recommend books or videos for hammering students?
Hammering students. Books or videos. I think YouTube is such a wealth of material, and there's so much to be found on there, really. But also, I think contemporary British silversmiths, they have some videos on their Instagram and on their YouTube page, actually, for tips and tricks. So I check those out, actually.
And I think that just more and more, you know, having gone through lockdown and everything, there are so many more videos becoming available, and you know, makers are in their studios, you know, showing us what they're doing, and we, you know, everybody can watch those as well, which I think is really good. But, you know, coming to these sorts of things, seeing you as well.
I think lockdown has really opened up a whole new way of sharing things, which is so wonderful.
And then somebody else is saying, don't forget the piece in the acid bath. I'm interested to find out what's going on there.
Oh, well, maybe we can go and get it out.
Well, actually, the acid bath is cold at the moment. So I would usually have it hot if I was working on something continuously. So because it's cold, I'll probably leave it a bit longer. But I could maybe post it in my stories.
That'd be a really good idea.
What it looks like.
Certainly. So everybody listen, you can look at Miriam's Instagram after this, and you'll see.
Do you have any more questions?
No, I think that's it for now. Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. So I am going to switch the view, trying not to appear too large in your screen. Sorry, this is a little bit of technology here. Here we are, back together. So I think really thank you so very much. It's been such a pleasure, and I hope that you really understood the soul of the artist here. You saw where she lives, the tools she makes. The tools are really the extension of the artist. It's, you know, they always say it's the extension of the hand, and the fact that you make your own tools. I mean, every maker, every artist has his or her preference, whether they buy them or from a certain company, or they've inherited them from you know, family members, or they make. I mean, in your case, it's made by your dad, which is a wonderful touch, and to see, you know, your universe and where the ideas are starting from. So
it's all integrated.
It is, absolutely.
And I can show you about the cleaning as well.
Oh, the cleaning, yes, that's right. He said we would do that because there were questions about cleaning the silver, and yes, we have a look at that.
So, for cleaning silver, I recommend this Goddard's silver foam. So, would you like to have a smell?
Yes. It actually smells really nice.
It's actually really nice.
It's very citrusy.
Yeah, so it's kind of this red paste which you can use with water.
Maybe we can
And the
show
sponge.
the
Oh yes, the label.
show the label a bit more than that. Can everybody see that?
Yeah, that's good.
Brilliant.
So it's really good for cleaning silver that is chased, actually, because the tarnish can get into the chasing. So what the silver foam does is it actually works itself into all the nooks and crannies and dissolves the tarnish. So I really recommend that for cleaning, because it's nice to have silver around that's not tarnished. But if you use it a lot, then you won't need to clean it so
That's
much.
right. You need to use it. Use
Yeah.
your silver. It's no good in the cupboard.
Very good. I mean, it was excellent to have those tips. Thank you. Shall I finish up? And did you have anything else that you wanted to ask, Isabelle?
No, I think that we've
Talk about those.
looked at. Oh yes, there's one thing I wanted to say is that there's some delightful Christmas ornaments that Miriam is making. These are little poinsettia flowers. They are in silver. They're hollow, and I think that every Christmas tree, that's all it should have on, because I can imagine the red ribbon, the silver against the green tree is going to make for a fantastic Christmas. We're going to have certainly a different Christmas this year, so we might as well have a pretty Christmas. So I wanted to share that with you. They're lovely. And are they on your website?
Yes, they're in the
They're on the website. So and we ship around the world.
snowflake ones as well.
And there's a snowflake too.
Yeah.
That you can also add. And those would make lovely little gifts. You can have them engraved, and one for each of your children, grandchildren. You can make your own collection there.
Yeah.
So I wanted to share.
Very beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both. It's been such a privilege to, for this behind the scenes tour of your studio. I think to see some of those exquisite pieces being moved around as well is really nice and really special, in these sort of distance times, especially when we can't actually come and see you at the fair. So thank you very much. I mean, I think there's sort of the one upside of a digital fair is that we are getting these sort of behind the scenes. We get, going into people's studios, which we wouldn't ordinarily do. So thank you. And I'd urge everybody here to go and have a look on the New Fair website, have a look at Miriam's page. She's got some beautiful photography, some information about herself as well, and then of course go through to her own website, and also her Instagram. Don't forget to check her Instagram after this so we can see how that piece is doing. That was really fantastic. Thank you, Miriam. Thank you, Isabelle. And I hope everybody has a really lovely afternoon.